Oh, they have the hair dryer, by the way. I found out.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Stuart Travel Group's virtual travel show, where tonight we're talking about our exclusive Croatia yacht tour coming up in October 2026, hosted by myself, Kimberly French, who I'm a Stuart Travel Group travel agent specializing in European travel, coming to you live from Croatia. It is just shortly after midnight my time, and I'm excited to have you here with us this evening. A little bit about Stuart Travel Group for those of you who may not be familiar. We are an award-winning travel agency, local travel agency out of the Maritimes, and we specialize in custom itineraries and hosted tours like the one we'll be talking about this evening. A little bit about myself. I've actually resided in Croatia back in 2014, where my husband was coaching professional hockey, and we truly fell in love with it. The village I'm in this evening is called Rovinj. Some of those who are joining us on the cruise already have pre-travel booked to this location at my recommendation. So, welcome all of you, and I'm going to pass it over to Raj. Raj is from Go Away Travel. He's their national account manager, and he is going to take over from here.
All right. Can you hear me, Kimberly?
I sure can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being up at this time of the day in Croatia. My name is Radesh. I'm the national accounts manager on behalf of GoAway, and let's do this real quickly. Let's actually show the people what I want to show the people. Let's see if this works. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works. Yes, that's me. And the reason why you're not seeing me is because I'm a vampire, because I was born and raised in Transylvania. And if you will believe that, you will believe absolutely anything that I will have to tell you tonight. The reality is I'm experiencing some difficulties with my camera. So unfortunately, you can't really see me, but I hope you can hear me. But that is one of the things that everybody asks me when they hear my name. And, it is true. I was born and raised in Transylvania, right where that arrow points to. And I moved to Canada about 20 years ago. So obviously, being a vampire, my joke is that there are no photos of me. It's just like, an artist rendition type thing. And obviously, I don't show up on cameras. I don't show up in photos, vampire things. But leaving that aside, I'm super, super excited because I think this is a great, great itinerary that we have put together for you tonight. I just wanted to go over really, really quickly about on who GoAway is and what GoAway does, because I think it's important for you to understand, that when you travel with Stewart Travel Group, Kimberly reached out to us for this particular itinerary, to understand who is going to be the basically company that's going to take care of you at the end of the day. And so GoAway is a company that's been around for 56 years now. The older gentleman in the photo, his name is Bruce Hodge. He's originally from Australia, moved in the 1970s to Toronto, started a company out of his dining room. And, 56 years later, we're a company that has offices in LA, in Manila, in Sydney, Australia, in Vancouver, Canada, and our headquarters in Toronto, in Canada as well. And, in this picture, you see his beautiful wife as well as his kids. And we are a family-owned company. And, again, 56 years later, from starting to operate trips to Australia and New Zealand, we now actually go to 115 different countries in all 7 continents. So that is part of the reason why, Kimberly and Stewart Travel Group reach out to us, because we can do all of these things. We can actually customize pretty much every trip for our common guests. But again, let's stick to the point and tell you a bit about what you're gonna do in October, because this is really, really exciting. I gotta tell you, I'm a bit jealous. First of all, I think October is the perfect time to visit any sort of Mediterranean country, because the reality is that by then the weather is going to be still really, really great, but it's not going to be too hot. You're also going to have most of the crowds of the summer kind of gone. So you are going to be able to really, really enjoy the destination. And this is going to be your floating hotel. So the Majesty's ship Marken is a ship that was built in 2018, so it's a relatively new ship. It is basically a state-of-the-art equipped vessel. She's 161 feet long and 28 feet wide, and has a cruising speed of about 9 nautical miles. But I don't know if you're really interested in all of those things. But the nice part about it, it has a guest capacity of 38 passengers in 19 different cabins. And as you can see, these are some of the amenities that you see, that you will have on board. And we were actually talking about this before the presentation. Do the washrooms, for instance, or the bathrooms have hair dryers? And they actually do. That was one of the questions that apparently was very important. So yes, they do have hair dryers. There's obviously safety deposit boxes, sofas, nightstands, all of that stuff. So, but keep in mind that on a trip like this, we have chartered this vessel, this yacht for you. And the nice part about it is that the size of the yacht the size of the market allows us to travel and get into some of these smaller islands in the Croatian archipelago where larger cruise ships cannot get into, larger vessels cannot get into. So it's great that we have the opportunity to travel to these beautiful places, experience them, and again do it in such a unique manner. And again, keep in mind that the whole point of the excursion, the whole point of the trip, is to really experience the destination, not the ship itself. The ship is absolutely phenomenal, but at the same time, what we want you to do is every day when we're going to be in a different port, we want you to get off the ship. We want you to enjoy. We want you to experience the destination. We want you to, really take it all in. And that's why we offer a few options on every single stop that we have on the road. So there's three ways that you can experience every single destination that we're going to get into. First of all, is you can just relax on deck. You can enjoy onboard meals, and you're floating home basically the ship, and you can just get off the ship and just do your thing. There's the option of biking, and we got guided cycling routes throughout the whole trip. And the price of the bikes is included in the trip. If you would like e-bikes, that's extra, but Kimberly is going to touch on that a bit later. And honestly, it's really not a massive difference in cost. And then obviously, if you don't want to bike, if you just like to experience the destination on foot, there's some shore excursions that we offer. So those are going to be, again, also included. It's just a matter of you communicating with Kimberly and letting her know which path you're choosing. So without further ado, on day one, you're going to be flying into Split. Again, Kimberly may arrange some sort of nights for you. Split is a UNESCO listed, heritage site, the Diocletian Palace. It is absolutely fantastic. It is a town, because it's not really a city, it's not that big, but it's a town that goes back over 2,000 years. So there's plenty of history, and it is a beautiful town, as you can see from the photo here. Really nice. So I fully encourage you, if you have the opportunity, if you have the time, to come in maybe a day or two early, just really enjoy, because the town of Split is really one of the most beautiful Mediterranean towns that you will ever see. And it's a great to just take it all in and kind of like maybe get accustomed to them, to the time zone for a couple of days before you hop on the ship. You can hop on the ship around 1 p.m. Basically, that is when the check-in starts. We'll have welcome dinner on board, or at a seaside restaurant. We're still working out that particular detail, but it doesn't really matter, because the food on board is fantastic anyway. And really, again, just take it all in for the first day. We are going to sail through the night, and then on the second day, you have arrived in Hvar, in the port of Stari Grad, and it's a really beautiful port. You got a couple of options here. Again, the cyclists, you can go for a quick dip. Again, it is going to be October, but trust me, the Mediterranean is still going to be warm enough where you can enjoy it. And you can, if you're cycling that day, you can, you're going to go through this beautiful sort of ride through lavender fields and vineyards, and take in a couple of the local villages. Really beautiful, and have like these really nice panoramic ruler sort of like views of the Dalmatian coast. If you don't want to go for a bike ride, Stari Grad's Renaissance Cathedral is one of the most spectacular cathedrals that you will ever see. Really interesting place. And again, you'll have dinner at Horachvar. Really great day ahead. And again, I'm telling you right now, I'm very jealous of you actually doing this. On the third day, you will go from Hvar to Vis. By the way, I just wanted to mention, when you see on the slides here, it says B and L. That basically stands for breakfast and lunch. So those meals are going to be included for you in the cost of the trip. Again, from Hvar to Vis, another beautiful place in in Croatia, another beautiful island in Croatia, the island of Vis. Again, breakfast and lunch are going to be served in on the ship. Really, really, you know, charming sort of like fishermen villages. If you can think about it from this perspective, I think really time stands still in those places, and you get to really appreciate the slower pace of life, as opposed to the North American sort of like hustle and bustle and grind of every day, and really just take it all in and understand why people in those areas actually live to be 100 quite often, because they do have that slower pace of life. But really, really interesting. For instance, in this, you'll see that the Greeks were there 2,000 years ago, and then you have Venetian architecture sort of on top of that. Really, really nice military base. Actually, if I am not mistaken, that is where you will have had the first torpedo was actually tested on the island of Vis. This is for kind of like the history buffs like myself. But the first torpedo was actually tested on the island of Vis in Croatia. So really, really interesting if you're kind of into that the history of it. From Vis, then you go to Korčula on the fourth day. Korčula is absolutely beautiful as well. Really, really nice. Weather permitting, you'll have a quick trip to the Blue Caves, in Bisevo. Really, really beautiful, sort of like water, some of the clearest water in the Mediterranean you'll ever see. And then Korčula town is all about medieval walls, sort of like honeystone streets, really, really, really spectacular. And again, there's a good reason why Croatia is among the favorite European destinations, because it is really, really great. So again, that is your option on day 4. On day 5, you will have a full day in Korčula, so we will be anchored in Korčula. So you get either a full day cycling tour that you can do, or you can do a bit of what they call Little Dubrovnik on foot, basically, because the Korčula town does kind of remind people of Dubrovnik, which is obviously the larger sort of attraction and the largest stoned walled town in Croatia. This is also the place where the story has it that Marco Polo, which is kind of like the first globetrotter back in the medieval times, was actually born here. So here you can learn about the story of Marco Polo. You can visit St. Mark's Cathedral. Really, really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. And again, just the slower pace of life, which is going to be really, really good for everybody. And then obviously your afternoon can be at leisure, so you can just really enjoy the cafes, the port, the old town, whatever you would like to do. On day 6, we're then moving from Korčula to Mljet. Now this is where you're going to get, on this day, you're going to have breakfast, lunch, as well as captain's dinner. So the cyclists are actually going to go on the national park sort of cycling route, and then if you're not into that, then you can choose to do a 2-hour guided hike through the sort of lush Mediterranean landscape. And this is exactly what you're going to see like in the photo. Really, really nice. Captain's dinner is on board that night, a festive sort of celebration of your voyage so far. But Mljet is also considered to be the greenest island, Croatia's greenest island. And then you can see here, it's the, there is this beautiful Benedictine monastery on St. Mary's Island at the center of Mljet National Park. So again, these pictures really don't do it justice. I really think that once you get there, you're going to be saying, wow, this is absolutely phenomenal. This is so much better than I thought it was going to be. From Mljet, then we move to Slano and then to Dubrovnik, basically. Slano is really the gateway to the Peljesac Peninsula. It's famed for its wine. Actually, Croatia has some of the best wines in the world. Interestingly enough, they're not as commercially renowned as the Italian wines or the French wines, but they're really some really, really beautiful wines. Again, salt flats, fresh oysters, really, really great. So You can go and enjoy an oyster and local wine tasting. Really, really great. Again, if you're gonna bike this, you can go on this really beautiful coastal route to the fortified town of Stone with all sorts of vineyards along the way. So it's going to be a very interesting sort of biking experience when you have a few stops at vineyards. It's normally a lot of fun, biking and having wine, and then basically towards the evening the ship arrives in Dubrovnik, and it is really, really the pearl of the Adriatic. Dubrovnik is obviously famous for having been, featured in any and every movie that you can possibly think of. Obviously, very, very famous because of the Game of Thrones. One of the seasons was filmed in Dubrovnik, but just in general, Dubrovnik, the old town of Dubrovnik, is really, really, one of the most beautiful places on earth. Medieval town, fully preserved UNESCO World Heritage Site. Really, really interesting thing about Dubrovnik as a characteristic. You will see it's very easy to get lost in Dubrovnik, but it's also very, very easy to then find your way back because the whole point of a lot of these medieval towns was to build them in such a manner that they would confuse attacking parties. So let's say you had, the Venetians attacking Dubrovnik or pirates attacking Dubrovnik. The whole point of it was to confuse them so that they would separate and be easier. The city would be easier to defend because of the smaller sort of groups of invaders that would be kind of like split amongst the small streets, and they would get confused, and a lot of the times it would be at night. So it's just really, really interesting, and again, you'll be able to find all of that. Now you will spend an additional 2 nights in Dubrovnik in a beautiful 4-star property, and you can just wander the cobbled streets of the old town. You can sip a coffee. You can pretty much just take it all in. Really, really beautiful. And then on the final day in Dubrovnik, there's a few options here. You can go on a sea kayaking adventure, which I highly recommend, really. But if you're not into that, you can also go to do a walking tour of the city walls, or you can trek to the Fort Imperial for some really beautiful, beautiful views of Old Town Dubrovnik. And at the end of the day, this is sort of getting towards the end of your trip. Again, by this point, you'll be amazed by all of the things that you would have seen. You will be really in awe of how beautiful Croatia is, and you will definitely make plans of reaching out to Kimberly and coming back to Croatia for an even more in-depth visit. But we will have a transfer to you to the Dubrovnik airport for your departure. Again, there's so many beautiful, beautiful things that you will see during your 9-day trip. I'm really, really jealous in a way because of the fact that you get to do this. I'm going to be stuck in some conference rooms in October, so I can't unfortunately join you, although I'd love to. And again, you got your local superstar Kimberly, who's going to highlight all of these beautiful things for you. She's going to be leading the group. As she mentioned at the beginning, she has lived in Croatia. She knows it inside out, and there is a reason why she fell in love with it. So I just wanted to quickly recap all of that. The MS Markan is a beautiful, beautiful vessel built in 2018, and really, really a great way to visit some of these islands that we've mentioned, because again, the size of it allows it to visit some of the islands where some of the big ships, some of the cruise lines cannot get into. And I would definitely like to keep it that way, because I think this is really the quintessential way to visit the Croatian archipelago. You'll have a beautiful stay at a 4-star property in Dubrovnik. And then, like I mentioned, breakfast and lunch are going to be included most days. Evening meals are flexible either on board or, at the restaurants that are, curated by us alongside Kimberly. And then, you got a captain's dinner on day 6. And again, I highly encourage you to go have dinner in town. Just basically enjoy the local cuisine, a lot of seafood, a lot of fish, a lot of just absolutely beautiful fresh flavors of the Mediterranean. So in total, you got 10 days, 7 nights at sea. We're visiting 5 islands, and we're spending 2 nights in Dubrovnik. And that's basically my part. I am done, but obviously I'll stick around because Kimberly has a bit of more information for you. And then at the end, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A session, right?
Absolutely. Raj, thank you so much for that. I just want to quickly touch upon a couple things before we dive into what's included in the tour. So, go away when I met with them in the summer, it was really important to me that we hit on certain locations in Croatia, ones that I've personally visited, spent time on. So, with this itinerary, it is unique. While there are other tours throughout the Adriatic, this one is handpicked and unique, and you would find it very rare to include these islands and these stops. But they're a must, as Raj said. You can't get into these with large ships. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention is we do have on board with us a tour guide, a bike tour guide, who will be traveling with us throughout the whole trip. So for those who will be biking extensively, that bike guide is with us every day for those 7 days on the yacht. We also have a tour manager. So a local tour manager will be on the boat and with us and assisting us as we travel throughout. Within your itineraries, when you book with us, one of the perks with booking with Stewart Travel Group and myself is we will give you all the goods in each location. So as we mentioned, yes, you may want to go out and venture on your own, do dinners, maybe some of the local there's a lot of little wineries that you can stop in, pubs, cafes. We are going to give you in your itinerary all of those must-see places. So it's not that you're going to have to spend your time trying to locate it. If you wish to do so, by all means, but we're going to give you all the tips and tricks in each destination. So we're very, very excited on that. So let's talk about what's included. So we've got the 7-day cruise, we have breakfast and lunch, and then the captain's dinner will be included. There is Wi-Fi on the boat. We have those 2 nights in a hotel in Dubrovnik post cruise. We have coach transfers. So one of the things we are still waiting upon is in Split. We are going to make sure there could be a chance we are departing from the port in Trogir or Split. We will be meeting in Split. I recommend anyone who is booking to come in a day prior to. Those who are, we have already started reserving all of us at one hotel. It is done. It is not included, but I am putting everyone in the same hotel. I will be there as well, so we can kind of have a home base on October 9th. And then on the 10th, we'll either make our way to Trogir, into the port, or in Split. We have shore excursions that are available. We'll talk about that when we talk about the pricing. And we've also got the bike rentals, which will be on board. And I think that's what's really unique about this. Traditionally, when you do a small yacht cruise, you've got to either be biking or you've got to be doing the excursions. With this, you will be allowed to choose. So there might be one day you want to bike, the next day you want to do an excursion. You must commit to that excursion package, but you can always choose to bike. And even in Korkala, we talked about that, there will be free time if you want to take one of the bikes out and take a little tour around the medieval village. We've also got, as you can see, the bike guide for the excursions. Myself is included. I will be sailing with you and spending time with you each day. What's not included, your international flights, whether you upgrade to an e-bike. So those of you who are unsure of maybe, how strenuous you want this to be, that option does remain. We've got the optional excursions like we've talked about. The port charges per person is a 60 euros. Miljet National Park entrance fee is the 25 euros per person. Meals and drinks that are not listed on the itinerary are obviously extra. Gratuities and any other additional items that you may want that are, you might want to purchase on board or are required to have. Let's go on to the pricing. Okay, so we're really excited. We're 50% sold out, guys. We're very, very excited. It is starting to pick up momentum as everyone starts planning their fall travels. So We only have 2 of the upper level decks available, and those are $6,690 Canadian per person based on double occupancy. On mid-level deck, we have 1 cabin remaining at 6,390 CAD per person. And then on our lower level, we are 6,190 Canadian dollars per person. This is a really, really good rate. Kudos to GoAway. We worked extensively on this as well to make sure that it was fair pricing and everything that's included for 9 days of travel. It is awesome. As of now, full payment is due at the time of booking. And of course, if you need anything, I am here to assist. And I think that is kind of the perk that when you have a travel agent traveling with you, some of you already booked who are on the call this evening. You know this, you've traveled with me before in the sense of I've done your travel planning. So I guess now we can open up to questions. Should anyone have some? And that comments, you can comment over on the side if you want. Ooh. Perfect. Okay. So let's talk about maybe the weather in October in Croatia. I've had a couple of people, ask about, will it be warm enough to swim? What's great about the Adriatic, and we should probably talk about the Adriatic as well, as it's right outside my door here. It is stunning. It is a very small, fine pebble. Not a sand beach, it is a pebble beach, but this water is crystal clear, a beautiful, beautiful azure blue. We also expect the temps to be warm. Obviously, the way of the world, temperatures are fluctuating and weather is a little unpredictable. But October, the temps are gorgeous here in the sense of it's swimmable. As we've talked about, there is less people, and we do expect great weather. To travel, is it expensive to travel and eat when you're in Croatia? Another great thing about Croatia is it is considered quite economical. Obviously, in some of the locations like Dubrovnik, a high tourist spot, it can be a little bit higher. But in these smallish villages, pricing is great. Your seafood, your beer. I had wine at my dinner this evening, and it was €4 a glass, and it was delicious. It was local. That's the other great thing about Croatia. All the local abundance of local flavors. So from their wines to their seafood to their meat, cheese. There's cheese from the island of Pog. It is spectacular. So let's go. We've got a couple questions popping up here. Can we book e-bikes for certain trips, or is the price for the entire trip? Great question. The price is for the entire trip. So $245 gives you access to that e-bike for each trip that you wish to have it, whether you want to use a pedal bike, that exists, but once you've made that $245 commitment, you have the e-bike option for the whole trip. Was that a hot tub on the boat that I saw in one of the pictures? Yes, it is actually a hot tub in one of the pictures, which will be available for use. Great. So let's talk a little bit more about Croatia and why I chose Croatia. I think Croatia is one of those destinations that does need to be seen by land and sea. While there are beautiful port locations like Split, you have Zadar, you have obviously Dubrovnik, you have Rovinj, Rajam, Pula, Opatia, all lovely places, but I really think the islands are a must-see as well. So I definitely think this is a perfect way to see both. And in Dubrovnik, Dubrovnik is stunning. It is truly a magical, magical place to visit. Okay, let's see what else we have. Awesome, guys. Well, that's great. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I want to thank, obviously, Stewart Travel Group for allowing us to put together this great cruise. GoAway Travel also for assisting us, and hope to see you all in Croatia in October 2026.